including trademark and cybersquatting law.
Thanks. And because the PR department gave me propaganda, and because you tried so hard to set it up, we have to play this, okay?
Reach out the lights in the front.
Hit 2 or 3 right behind you, under the whiteboard. Hit 2 or 3 of those.
Just keep flipping.
Oh, that's right.
Much better.
Thank you.
The GoDaddy Group enables individuals and businesses to acquire, create, and safeguard their unique identities and brands on the internet by offering a complete line of web development tools, including domain name registration, hosting, email systems, SSL certificates, domain auctions and appraisals, and complementary products and services. What does that mean? In plain English, GoDaddy.com is the on-ramp to the internet. We help people secure domain names, and we do it well. GoDaddy.com is the world's #1 domain registrar. We register or renew a domain name every 3 seconds. We host websites, and we help make online businesses better by offering an extensive menu of products and services. You or someone you know could be customers. After all, GoDaddy.com is the #1 shared host provider in North America. We do all this very successfully, and without outsourcing a single job. GoDaddy's customer service is top-notch too. Listen to what our customers have to say in 2 of our TV commercials.
I started catering as a side business. I wanted to succeed, so I got a domain name and a website from GoDaddy.com. And because I also got a website builder with it, I got it for $3.99. I worried that getting set up on the internet would be difficult, but GoDaddy made it a cinch. Thanks to my $3.99.com name from GoDaddy, my business is smoking!
Just go to www.godaddy.com/TV.
Just let it cool down a bit, it'll be fun.
My name is Ginger, and I'm a real estate agent in Katy, Texas, and my son Josh is my business partner.
GoDaddy customers Ginger and Josh Manuel.
GoDaddy helped us register our domain. We registered west-houston.com at GoDaddy. GoDaddy.com provides great customer service to us.
Since we have registered our website with GoDaddy, we not only reach people here in Katy, Texas, but we reach people worldwide.
Just go to www.godaddy.com/TV.
Great testaments to our product. Now the TV commercial that put GoDaddy.com on the map, and our founder and president Bob Parsons into the national spotlight. The spot heard around the world, a commercial we did spoofing censorship. This aired in the 2005 Super Bowl 1 time and then was yanked by the NFL before it aired again.
Ms. Capelli?
Yes, I'd like to be on a commercial.
What will you be advertising?
GoDaddy.com. Oh my gosh. It's a website where you can register .com names for only $8.95 a year.
And what exactly will you be doing on this commercial?
I could do a routine where I went like this.
Surely by now you must realize that you're upsetting the committee.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset the committee.
May I suggest a turtleneck?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring the GoDaddy girl. I'm the next best thing. So I showed you that to talk about exactly what GoDaddy does. As Adam said, we are the largest registrar in the world. When I joined GoDaddy about 5 years ago, I think we're the 47th largest registrar, but don't be impressed by that because there were only about 50 at the time. I'm not kidding. That's a true statement. That's true. Since that time, we've overtaken the more traditional former monopoly providers in this industry to become the #1 registrar. What that means to me as a lawyer and to you as potential people who might advise clients like this is that we face an awful lot of intellectual property issues. And they come in the form of domain name disputes, hosting content disputes, and just about anything else you can imagine that people do on the internet. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen some pretty crazy stuff on the internet. I brought some tame stuff today because I didn't want to offend anybody, but there's some pretty crazy stuff that people do. Generally, though, I want to give you a little bit of background. I don't want to make this lecture too boring and too substantive, but are you guys all, tell me where you are in school. 2 L's and 3 L's? You guys are 1 L's? Okay, so we have a little bit of everything. Do you hear that feedback? Or is it just me?
No, it sounds like you're underwater, but...
That was definitely a Professor Ochoa joke. Do you guys know that Professor Ochoa was my law professor as a first year? That also happened to be his first year of teaching. See me after if you want to hear some good stories about that. Okay, so all right, so here's what you got to know. There's basically three roles that you're going to come across when you're talking about disputes that regard registration and hosting. There's the registrant, which is the person who registers the domain name. Tell me what your last name is again?
Marcus.
Marcus, okay. So if you want to become adammarcus.com, you go to GoDaddy, you register that name, or you go to any registrar, register that name, you become the registrant, right? The company where you register it is the registrar. I make that distinction because when you go to bring a dispute about a domain name, please don't sue me. I have nothing to do with it. Okay? Fair enough? Do not sue the registrar. I have immunity statutorily and by case law. Sue Adam. It's his fault. All right? Fair enough? Okay. There's also the hosting provider. That's the person who provides space that the content goes on. The actual files that you see when you access the website, those go to the hosting provider. GoDaddy happens to be a hosting provider also, but not all registrars are. So if Adam does something like put up, what's your name? John
Pettit.
Pettit?
Close enough. Pettit.
How do you spell it?
P-E-T-T-I-T.
Okay, so he puts up johnpettitsucks.com, and John doesn't like the fact that Adam puts up johnpettitsucks.com, and he comes to me and says, well, Christine, you know, I don't really think this domain name is serving the public interest. I'm going to say, you know what, Adam, you're a bad boy. Shame on you for saying bad things about your fellow student, but sorry, John, you're going to have to go to the hosting provider because I can't control that content. Okay? So make sure you make that distinction. It's very important. Lawyers all over the country fail to make that distinction every day. Okay? Everybody got that? You didn't shake your head. Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, so here's what the registrant has to do. You register the domain name, johnpettitsucks.com. Do you mind if I use that as an example? I'll tell you what, I was teaching a class last year, and I would pick some poor guy that was in the class, and I was using him as an example, and his guy next to him during the class actually went and registered the name. And by the end of the class, he had a website up. So if you're connected to the internet, while we're talking, you might want to register that name. Okay, because if you don't, the guy with the glasses is going to. Okay, so the register, I'm not kidding you, you think I'm joking. It was just a true story right down the road.
Only $2, sir.
$8.95, right. And by the way, this is a good time to mention, if you don't own your domain name and it's available, you ought to register it. Because if you don't, do you own TylerOchoa.com? Oh, you're killing me.
EricColeman.org.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Because if you don't own it, somebody else is going to get it.
Someone got the .com.
Well, as you can imagine, somebody got the ChristineJones.com about 2 decades ago, but because there are about 4 million of them in the world. But if you don't own it, go get it. Because for $8 or $9 a year, you might as well have it and get it off the market so people can't abuse you on the internet. At least not that easily.
Do you have ChristineJonesSucks.com?
I do. Absolutely, because you know how many enemies I have? Because when poor John Pettit calls me and says, hey, can you take this domain down? And I go, you're going to have to go to the hosting provider. He's like, Christine Jones sucks. Okay, so you register the name. When you register that name, you specifically agree, affirmatively agree, not to infringe the intellectual property rights of any third party, okay? You know, from contracts, that gives me a safe harbor, right? That's your representation, not mine. So now those intellectual property infringements are your problem, okay? You're also the party to a dispute over the domain name itself. You'll notice this is the second time I'm making this point. It's going to come up again and again. It's your problem. If you do something bad with that domain name, John Pettit's going to come and have a dispute against you, not the registrar. You also control the actual content of the website. The hosting provider doesn't control it. The hosting provider may have a button that can take it down, but that's your responsibility. What you put up there is your responsibility. The registrar maintains a database of with domain names, right? Basically, it's just a pretty straightforward relational database. We provide public access to your information so people can know who the registrant is. And we're not a party to any disputes over the domain name itself. Okay, that's time number 3. Hosting provider provides the box that the content goes on, right? So when you put up johnpettitsucks.com, you're going to build some files, you're going to put some pictures of him like in a bikini or some, something, I don't know, maybe, you're going to Photoshop him onto a picture of a girl with big boobs or something. That's you, right? You put that on my database. You put that on my server. You give me the file, I put it on the server. The responsibility to comply with the law comes from the DMCA, which is you guys talk about this? You talk about DMCA in your class, right?
In the upper division.
Okay, all right. So the DMCA is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It was enacted, as the name suggests, around the year 2000 to, among other things, provide a safe harbor for internet service providers who do hosting provision and take bad content like johnpettit.sucks and put it on the internet. And it basically shifts the responsibility to the person who actually controls the content. The Communications Decency Act is also a statute that was enacted along those lines. I'm not going to get into the detail of that because I think your professors probably cover that much more eloquently than I can. What we do have the ability to do is remove the offending content. So if johnpettitsucks.com happens to have illegal content on it, like say for example, God forbid, contains child pornography, terrorism, rape, incest, any of the horrible things that people do on the internet, it incites violence, or any of the other illegal speech, we can pull it down, okay? Barring illegal content, it's going to stay up and it's going to be your problem, okay? Here's some of the hot dispute issues that we see kind of on a daily basis right now in our business. They include, obviously, intellectual property disputes, which have been around since the day domain names were invented. Phishing, you guys all know what phishing is? Phishing is where you get an email, it looks like it comes from a bank, says, hey, we need to update your information, please log on to your account. You log on, you give them all your data. It's really not the bank, it's really somebody stealing your identity. That is a big, big problem right now. We shut down or identify about 20 to 25 new phishing scams every day. Just GoDaddy. That doesn't include the whole internet. Of course, child porn and pedophilia is always big. The House of Representatives right now, Oversight and Investigations Committee is really focusing on this issue and trying to enact some legislation that will make it easier for people that are in my position to make the internet a safer place for children, including monitoring and reporting child porn, which is a really big problem with content right now. Of course, terrorism, with the invention of new anti-terrorism laws and a new agency with the federal government, there's a lot of focus on terrorist activity on the internet. It's out there, and unfortunately, they do use our system from time to time. Other controversial content, something that we saw the last 2 months a lot of is political campaign websites that are registered by somebody other than the candidate. And of course, the candidates all call me and say, hey, we want you to take this website down, and I call them back and I say, maybe you want to go read the New York Times case? Not my problem, right? You guys probably haven't talked about political speech yet. Have you had ConLaw? Okay, write that down, New York Times. On that, when you have that in ConLaw, the professor will be very impressed. Okay, obviously spam, big problem. You guys have good spam filters? With the university's mail system?
Yeah. It traps about 45 a day for me.
So, obviously that's a big deal. We take a very aggressive stance on spam at my company. If you spam with our system, you get shut down, period. No second chances, no exceptions. We just don't tolerate it. So that's an obviously content dispute. And then there's just other generally illegal content, which I talked about before. There's also, separately from that, there are a bunch of domain name dispute issues, right? Intellectual property disputes where John Pettit happens to be a trademark and you register it. That's his intellectual property. You guys have a dispute. Cybersquatting, of course, registering somebody else's trademark as your domain name. Typo squatting, which would be registering a name that's substantially the same or similar to a trademark, but maybe one letter off. So you're trying to intentionally pick up typographical errors when people are typing into their web browser. Traffic monetizers, which are the websites that you go to that look like a search page. Maybe you mistype something and a search page comes up. You see them all the time, all different shapes and sizes. They always ask you if you want to make it their homepage. Those actually have become quite the business model. Little entrepreneurs are doing nothing but that for a living these days. They're just monetizing errant traffic on the internet. A lot of those happen to contain trademark names within the domain name. Those are very controversial right now. Domain name kiting, which is registering a domain name and canceling it within the first 5 days of registration so you don't have to pay for it. This is a very clever new business model, which basically gives you an asset without ever having to use your cash. And people register thousands upon thousands upon thousands of domain names, cancel them within 5 days, and just monetize the traffic that comes to those pages within that 5 days. Some of the really egregious companies actually register and drop and register and drop and register and drop the same name over and over and over and over. That we think is wrong. I don't know how do you guys think that's wrong? Like, what's your thoughts about that? What do you think, Adam? Just picking on you because I know your name.
That's fine. I think it's wrong. I'm not sure how you prevent it without making it difficult for people who want to register a valid domain.
What if I told you you can only do that if you're a domain name registrar? You can't do that as an individual person. Does that change your mind?
I'm not sure what you mean, only do that.
In other words, you can't register johnpettitsucks.com and drop it within 5 days without paying for it unless you're a registrar. Only registrars can do that. Would that change your opinion?
That seems very simple. What does the end user have to pay if they don't have the ability to drop it?
Well, you would have to pay $8.95 in the case of the domain name. Okay, what do you think?
Seems reasonable as well. The average person doesn't need to presumably bring up 1,000 to 2,000 websites, so taking a risk of $8.95 seems that it would keep down the amount of abuse.
Okay, what do you think?
I think it's completely legitimate business practice as long as they're paying for it, paying the registrar, who is GoDaddy.com at this point.
Okay, so what if they're not paying the registrar? What if they call you up, they register it, 5 days later they call you up and they say, oh, just kidding, I didn't want to really register that name, I want a refund.
But why do we have a 5-day drop period anyway? We could simply eliminate that.
See, this is why he's a law professor, because he asks really good questions. What do you think?
I was actually possibly going to ask something along those lines, but I don't understand why we just couldn't eliminate the 5-day, and if not, and if it's some sort of safety precaution to allow people to just their domain names, maybe institute a policy where they have to pay it up front and then they start to carefully find people who are doing that. Institute some sort of fine or policy that take care of that.
Okay, what do you think?
I'm just thinking with cell phone contracts, even if they allow you to cancel the contract in the first 2 weeks or so, they charge you a prorated rate for the number of days that you have the service. I would think maybe you could do something with domain names. So if people, when they register, they're signing an annual contract, and you want to allow people to exit out of that contract if maybe they're an idiot and they mistype the domain name that they want to register. They just have to pay for the 5 days that it was up.
Well, you can certainly see legitimate uses for it, right? Say, instead of spelling his name with 2 T's, you spelled it with 1. You're like, oh, nobody's going to find johnpettitsucks.com if I didn't spell his name right. So you call me up and you say, really, I just was a typo. Can I have a refund? Of course, that's a legitimate use, right? I'm going to say you should be more careful about your typing from now on. But okay, fine. Or what we use it for is we have a very active fraud monitoring department, 24/7. They monitor transactions. Because there's a lot of credit card theft in this country and in the world, many transactions are reversed because they're fraudulent credit card purchases. That's a legitimate use for that at drop grace period. Enabling registrars to abuse their position, and I'm just going to tell you my position on this, enabling registrars to abuse their position, which is really a position of trust, was not what it was designed for. So, all right, I'll move on. I said my piece on that. Okay. You guys get emails that look like this? So this maybe makes this really look like it's coming from WAMU, but it's really not. You know how you can tell? Can you tell by looking at that email that it didn't come from Washington Mutual?
I'm wondering if personalwhamu.com is actually a WAMU-owned website.
Okay, that's one way to find out. Yeah.
Well, I do WAMU that the font's not right.
Because you've gotten emails from them in the past?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was thinking maybe there'd be confidential information disclosure at the bottom.
Like a standard confidentiality clause? Right. Okay. Yeah.
Just, I think nowadays most banks have a general policy that they inform you of repeatedly that they will never send you such an email.
Well, that's true. Because of emails like this, most banks now, you can't even communicate with your bank by email anymore, right? The sad thing is, no matter how many ideas you come up with that say, hey, that doesn't look like a legitimate email, the crooks fix their mistakes. So the rule of thumb is, never, ever, ever, ever click on a link in an email. Never, ever, ever click on a link in an email. Sorry if you're sending people links. Just don't do it. Because you just simply don't know where that link is taking you. The insidiousness of this crime is significant. I mean, I can't overemphasize it. So basically, don't click on links. Oh wait, don't go to Save Toby yet. Hold on. That's such a good story. What you do is, if you get an email from your bank and they say, hey, we need you to log in, go to the front of their site and log in, just like you always do, okay? Okay, so let's talk about this little content issue that came up. This guy put up a website called SaveToby.com. It's registered at GoDaddy, posted at GoDaddy. And you can read what he says, but basically the gist of it is, I rescued this rabbit, I nursed him back to health. If I don't raise a certain amount of money by a certain date, I'm going to have to kill it and eat it. This guy's like, what a great business plan. God, I wish I would have thought of that. So, okay, so I start getting phone calls from people. And I can tell you the reason I use this as an example is because this was the single most controversial website in the history of our hosting. Okay, everybody hated this website. The animal rights people hated it, the people at PayPal hated it, the people at Visa hated it, the people at eBay hated it, everybody hated this website. So, let's say you love it. It's brilliant, right? It's brilliant. Okay.
It's so cute.
Well, he's adorable. Oh, and there's more stuff out there. There's little videos of him hopping around. And there's Save Toby mugs and mouse pads and t-shirts. You can get all the Save Toby literature. Okay, so basically the guy's like, hey, I want to save this poor bunny, but if I don't get the money, I mean, I just simply can't. I'm a poor guy. I can't afford to support him. So let's talk to somebody who has, and we haven't heard from yet. How about you in the blue? So you're the general counsel of GoDaddy, and you get the phone call from the crazy animal rights people. I mean, they're crazy mad, right? I don't mean they're crazy people, but they are livid. They're like, you got to take this down. This is outrageous. What do you do? Okay, put aside for a second your feelings toward animals, right? Because this is a legal analysis. This isn't an emotional analysis, right? Yeah, it's not that easy, huh? Okay, how about you in the white? What do you think?
It's not your problem as GoDaddy. I mean, maybe that's insensitive, but this guy sounds like he might eat the rabbit whether or not he gets $50,000. So your removal of the website.
That's a good point. He might. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Is there any trademark violation up there? Does the domain name appear to be violating somebody's trademark? As you look at the content, does there appear to be any trademark violation on the content itself?
The Visa and MasterCard logos are trademarked.
They got registered trademark symbols on them, right? Little footnote at the bottom that says those are registered trademarks of their respective owners. Any copyright problems there? Look like you copied that from anybody? I mean, we don't know if it's an original picture, but I mean, we can assume unless somebody complains that it is. Is it illegal? Is what that website is doing, is that illegal? Yeah.
I was thinking for a moment that maybe there's an attempted animal cruelty or threatened animal cruelty charge, but probably not in the case of rabbits.
I don't know, I live in Scottsdale. We have rabbit on the menu in half the restaurants.
Right.
What do you think? What about you guys, first years? Because you have like a real, fresh outlook on life.
Doesn't seem illegal in any way.
So what do you think? Leave it up? Take it down? Wait, hold on.
Why do they want to take it down? If they take it down, the browser's for sure going to die.
The rabbit's not dying. The rabbit's never dying.
So what do you think? Leave it up? Take it down?
Could be.
But that's one of the issues, isn't it? Right? Does this guy really have the intention to kill the rabbit or not? Right? If he's not going to kill the rabbit, even if he doesn't receive the money, then that's fraud, right?
Well, that's a different issue. See, that's a good point. Nobody thought of that. Is he just lying, plain old-fashioned lying to people to get their money? Is he defrauding people?
But it would cost $50,000 to find out.
You game?
No.
He's got a PayPal account. Okay, go ahead.
It seems like why the animal welfare groups make so much notice about this to actually bring the public attention so that people will want to support the person. So they should have applied in the first place.
The animal rights people?
Have known about the site.
Oh, everybody knows about this site now. You can't imagine how popular this website was. It had more traffic than just about any other crazy website out there for months because the animal rights, there were articles in papers and it was on the news. They even came and interviewed me and put it on CNN. I mean, I'm not kidding you. This was ridiculously big. This rabbit website. Okay, so what do you think? Leave it up? Take it down? This is what I ask my staff in staff meetings, okay? You guys are the lawyers. You got to give me a recommendation. Leave it up? Take it down? Ooh, it's tougher when you're the lawyer and you're giving advice, huh? Yeah.
I would recommend leave it up, but inform everyone who complains that what they should do is go after the company providing the banner ads, which is, I'm assuming, the majority of the money that the website operator is getting, not from the PayPal donations, but from that banner ad that's sort of cropped out at the top.
Okay. Anybody else? You guys are graduating in like 4 months. Somebody's going to come to you and say, I need your advice. What do I do with this website? What do you think?
Unless you had something in the contract, I don't see how you can take it down. So if you've got some sort of moral defense clause.
Oh, of course we do. I wrote the contract, but that's besides the point. We don't invoke that very often. Yeah.
But if you really think that this is a fraud and there are no legal ways to shut it down, then you can just find the animal rights people and take over the rabbit and get that thing solved. I mean, because the issue that he's putting in, that he's unable to take care of the rabbit. So why can't we just take over the rabbit?
Have somebody adopt the rabbit?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there were many, many, many offers to adopt the rabbit, just so you know the end of the story. The answer is, we left it up. Okay, let's move on. Let's say you're Baja Fresh, and you come across this website called bahafresh.com. You guys have Baja Fresh up here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do you think about that?
What seems to fit under the typo squatting that you mentioned earlier?
Typo squatting?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think? Trademark violation? Is that domain name a trademark violation? This one is really easy. They're going to get harder as we go along, so you got to get this one right. What do you think?
I think they would probably win if they brought the suit. I don't think it should be a trademark violation unless
No political activism.
no, unless they do something to suggest, unless you go to the site and they're doing something to suggest that they're connected with.
That's the website right there. That's the entire website.
Yeah, I think that should win, but I think it would probably lose.
Okay.
I don't think that's an easy one at all, Christine. I think that's of course they're going to split right down the middle on this.
Well, okay. let me distinguish between two types of actions. In domain name disputes, there are two types of actions. One comes under what we call the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy. One comes under a traditional litigation. Under the UDRP, there's really a very simple three-prong test that you have to meet. Does the person have a legitimate interest in a trademark? Are they using it with your permission? And are they using it in bad faith? That's pretty much it. There really is no more further analysis like you would get into in a traditional trademark litigation case. So, under the UDRP, bad faith and per se bad faith includes using a name that's the same or substantially similar to a trademark for financial gain. It's a pretty low threshold to show bad faith under the UDRP. Okay, so now, given that background, what do you think? If we're in a UDRP dispute, who gets it?
It's bad faith, so Baja Fresh should win.
So you think Baja Fresh gets the name?
Yes.
Okay, anybody disagree with that?
Well, I mean, under the UDRP, there's no question in my mind that Baja Fresh would win, right? What that does is then shift the burden of bringing a legal action to the person who registered the domain name.
Okay, so let's talk
right,
about
that. Because the UDRP is not binding on a court, right? At all.
It's hardly even precedential, to be honest with you. Although I do have a trademark case going to trial on January 2nd, I do have a UDRP decision, and it is admissible. In that particular case.
No reason
it's a
to
motion to limine, though, so, you know, it's a case by case.
Yeah, I mean, the admissibility could go either way, but it's certainly not binding, right?
Absolutely
the
not.
Court, you know, it says right in the UDRP, this doesn't prevent you from going to court. It's just a real cheap and easy way for the trademark owner to, you know, try to get at people who are just registering these things willy-nilly, right? If the person who wants to use Baja Fresh thinks they've got a legitimate reason to use it and wants to fight, right? But now that puts the burden on them of having to go to court to try to keep you from taking down the domain.
Exactly. So under the UDRP, once the decision is rendered, the party that loses has 10 days to file a court dispute, basically. So if within 10 days, Baja Fresh, with an H, brings a court dispute, the domain stays as it is, and they proceed with a traditional litigation path. Much more expensive, much less certain as to what's going to happen, because that doesn't appear to be selling burritos.
Doesn't appear to be selling anything right now. It's just
well, I'm just looking at the links. This is like travel, services, money savers, leisure, those sorts of things. So it doesn't necessarily appear to be competing with Baja Fresh with a J, right?
Right.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. How about this one? Dillard's with one L.
Dillard's grocery store.
Oh, Dillard's is a department store.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't have Dillard's here?
Yeah,
We do. They're rare, but we do have them.
Okay.
That one's Center Road.
So, okay, Dillard's is a department store, just like Macy's or, what do you have, Robinson's May, or, one of those places. It's spelled, it's not at all like Neiman Marcus. Not at all. It's spelled with two L's. So here you have Dillard's with one L, and they sell, or at least link you to, coupons. What do you think?
Well, but the question is, though, are you going to wait for a UDRP action, or if somebody complains to you, are you going to do anything?
As the registrar?
Yeah.
It's a fair question. As a registrar, I'm not entitled to get involved in that dispute. That's a dispute between Adam and John. I cannot be a fact finder. All I can say is, Adam, you got to go to WIPO or another provider or another arbitration provider. Do you guys know what WIPO is? The World Intellectual Property Organization. They're one of the arbitration panels that does UDRP disputes. You're gonna have to take this up with them. I'm not entitled to take that name down for that reason. Only thing I can do to it is lock it or do what the court or arbitration panel tells me to do with it. what do you think? Who wins that UDRP dispute? Dillard's brings it. Wait.
I think it's the same as the last one.
What do you think?
Well, could it be that Dillard's isn't a grocery store, right?
Dillard's is a department store.
Department store. So could it be that Dillard's with one L is a legitimate, online grocery coupon provider?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know either. I don't know anything about the case. Well, if that's the case, I feel like then there's no reason Dillard's with one L can't exist as the way it is right now.
Okay, anybody else?
If you like this stuff, you should be taking trademark law in next year.
Sales pitch. Okay, Dillard's won that case. How about this one, Williams-Sonoma with one L? Can you read this? You got to look a little bit closer for this one. Because this has stuff like weddings, kitchenware, shopping, stores, and so on. Kitchenware, clearly what Williams-Sonoma does, right? What do you think? Who gets that UDRP dispute? You think? Yeah, good guess. How about this? Okay, first question. Home Depot sucks. Is that a trademark violation?
Fair use.
Sorry?
Fair use.
Anybody else? What do you guys think? You haven't had trademark law yet, right? What do you think? Just from being in the world, what do you think about that? Do you think it's a trademark violation?
I would think no.
Okay, what do you think? No? What about you?
Well, if they're using Home Depot, it's the logo of the slash thread, it's a trademark violation.
Okay, HomeDepotSucks.com, the most famous sucks litigation in the history of domain names. Home Depot has litigated this and litigated it and litigated it and appealed it and appealed it and appealed it. They've lost every single time. This website has been up and it's still up and it'll be up forever because it is a legitimate fair use of the term to go bash somebody on the internet. Okay, now I'll say again, if you don't own JohnPettitSucks.com, go get it. This website is not coming down. And it's a pathetic website. Look how terrible it is. It's been up for years. And the use of the trademark, all of it, totally legitimate, according to the courts. How about if it looked like this? Which it did for a little short amount of time. What?
No, they would lose their site.
You think they can't put this website up?
No, I'm saying they could, but they'd lose it.
So Home Depot gets this one.
Yeah.
What do you? Anybody else? What about you in the gray? You guys are, kind of quiet back there.
I don't see the difference to the last one. So it's just because I can't read it, probably.
Okay, so this one basically says stealing home coalition, stopping the Home Depot's theft of our rainforest, right? And then it has links down the left-hand side. This one is home improvement, remodeling, and home decor, which kind of is what Home Depot does, right? So what do you think? Do you see any difference?
Well, the first one is kind of criticism, legitimate criticism, and this is competition. I'm not.
But is it unfair competition?
Unfair competition. Yeah, okay. I can see the difference now. Yeah. I would think they lose the case here.
You think Home Depot gets this one?
Yes.
Okay, they didn't. Okay, how about this one? What's that?
Should I toss it?
Yeah. eBay gets hit with another suit over billing, get a merchant account, 73% off Tiffany, 73% of Tiffany items sold on eBay are fakes. What do you think? Does eBay win that one?
Domain name dispute or
Domain name
content
dispute. See, you guys were so sure of yourself at the beginning.
Home Depot didn't win the other two, then I don't see why eBay would win this one.
That's true. eBay lost this. And just to show you that nobody is exempt, I didn't buy the SUX version, so somebody else put it up. But it doesn't have anything to do with how bad GoDaddy sucks. It only has to do with search engine results. So what do you think? Does GoDaddy get this one? You say yes? You say no? Bless you. What do you think?
I don't think GoDaddy.
See, they're real. No, they're like, Okay, so walk through the analysis. Legitimate trademark? I can tell you it is. Any right to use the trademark? Bad faith? You have that pensive
But
look on your face.
Christine, you say that they're using the trademark, and they're not using your trademark exactly. They are commenting on your trademark in the domain name itself.
Well, that's certainly the argument that they made.
But there's certainly plenty of course who would acknowledge that.
But there's no likelihood of confusion, right? Nobody's going to think that you guys sponsored this website. You're not going to comment yourself.
You just never know. But
no, the goods are completely unrelated.
That's fair. But okay, if we just stick with the UDRP analysis, we don't have to get to confusion, right? We just have to get to bad faith. It's a much lower threshold.
Yeah, no, I mean, so you file a UDRP action. It depends on whether they want to contest it or not, right? The arbitrator, you probably got a real good chance of winning.
The odds are 80 to 90% that the complainant wins. So all these are stacked. If you're in UDRP, complainant wins. That's easy. But is that what you're trying to establish, that the complainant wins in UDRPs?
I'm saying who should win this?
Well, if it's who should win this, you should lose.
What's the right answer?
You should lose.
Okay, I'll tell you. I didn't even bring this UDRP, because you're right. I didn't even file it. Because there's no way I should win that, right? Okay, how about this one?
Christine, can we get back though? I just want to be clear. Because you've given us a lot of examples where the SUX registrants have won. But there's a long list of situations where the SUX registrants have lost. Not only from the situation where they put out non-related ads, but even in situations where they made legitimate criticism. The UDRP is stacked in the complainant's favor.
Did you guys hear what he said? He's absolutely right. Many UDRP disputes come out in favor of the complainant when they should clearly go to the respondent. I mean, it just is a fact of life. A lot of times that happens because the respondents never respond. A lot of times it happens because there's a natural bias toward the complaining party. But I think that's the principal reason that this 10-day appeal to a court was built into the system, because sometimes it's not perfect.
So the answer is, in many of these cases, we don't know, and we cannot predict in advance who will win. If we ask the question, who should win, our normative views encroach. But as a descriptive matter, we cannot predict who wins GoDaddySucks.com, because the law or the UDRP rulings are inconsistent.
That's a fair statement. But I will tell you, as lawyers and people who are bound by ethical rules, people who are members of the bar, you should be making the analysis on whether or not your client should have a right to that name. There are lawyers all over the country that file these disputes every day, and they make the wrong decision.
Many of them strongly believe that they should have the right to possess every version of trademark with any affix after it.
That's a fact. Go ahead.
This is a very random question, but was GoDaddySucks.com registered to GoDaddy?
No, I would have just taken it. I'm just kidding. I would have. But no, it wasn't. Although there have been many occasions when versions of GoDaddy with typographical errors were registered at GoDaddy. Let me bring up one that's near and dear to my heart, just because it's getting ready to go to trial on January 2nd. What would you think if I told you that there was a website called updaddy.com selling domain names and all of the related services that we sell? The exact same business, updaddy.com.
I'd want to use it for my trademark exam. That's great.
Well, you can use it because I'm going to have a jury decision for you pretty soon. What do you think?
Well, it seems like it relates back to Professor Goldman's earlier comment about whether or not it's unfair. Is it unfair trade competition? Because it's one thing if they're in the same market, same services are offered. It's another, I should say, extent if they use some of your trademark name in the services, in the offering of the services. So in that regard,
I don't understand what you just said.
You did not, or you did?
I didn't. What's the distinction you're making?
The distinction is the fact that if it were just up.com and they offered the same services, would we still be in litigation?
Of course not.
Exactly. So now we're measuring the extent of daddy. Does GoDaddy occupy the whole daddy domain?
Actually, that's a great question. We actually have a trademark on the word daddy in the goods and services that sell domain names, hosting, email, search engine optimization, all of the things that we do. Daddy is our trademark.
Are you really using daddy as a trademark as opposed to GoDaddy?
Well,
I'm not sure.
The argument there is that the name has become, daddy has become so closely associated with the company. Like, for example, the CEO is often known as daddy, right? It sounds ridiculous to say it. But it's like, there are many, many articles that are written like, who's your daddy and who's your GoDaddy and, all of these things, so that it's so closely associated with the company as to be persuasive to the USPTO. They issued the trademark.
Yeah, the PTO will issue it.
So when my son greets me as daddy when I walk in the door, do we need your permission?
Different kind of daddy.
Oh, okay.
Different kind of daddy.
Just checking.
Okay, so but anyway, let's go back to UpDaddy because it's a real live case. You don't get to play. What do you think in the blue?
I like bit of confusion.
Yeah. Okay.
Between the two sides.
Up's a preposition. Go is a not actually.
Well, dominant word GoDaddy is the daddy part, so there's a confusion between the names themselves. They offer the same services in the same marketplace.
Okay.
It has, I don't know the picture of the site, but also the layout of the site, I don't know whether or not they look similar or not.
They're pretty much identical. Yeah.
I would want to know if you have survey evidence and if the other side is survey evidence.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, as Professor Ochoa loves to say, you can always find 5% of the population that's confused about anything. But
probably a lot more than that.
If you have survey evidence showing that a number of users, a well-done survey that somehow, in a way that the court believes is valid, that they will see UpDaddy and think GoDaddy, then you've proven some confusion, or at least some tarnishment. Not tarnishment. Some confusion.
Okay. How about dilution? Okay, well, we don't have an answer to that one. I'll let you know how it turns out. You know where I stand on it.
It's a good case. I mean, it's one that you would clearly deny summary judgment on and go to trial on, right?
I think we should have gotten rid of it on the motion, but all right. Okay, how about this one? This is a website that sells counterfeit purses. And by the way, just so you know, Louis Vuitton, the most #1 violated brand on the internet. I'm not kidding you. They have 110 lawyers in France who do nothing but search trademark violations on the internet. 110 souls. That's their entire job. Now, I don't know how many other lawyers they have, but okay. So anyway, you have like these nice, bags here, $29.95 and less. Pursebuy.com is the domain name. If you look at it strictly from a domain name dispute, no problem, right? Generic, it doesn't really have, it's just descriptive, it doesn't really have anything to do with the content. What do you think about the content here? You're the hosting provider, Louis Vuitton contacts you, they say, we want you to take this down, it's a trademark and possibly even a copyright violation. What do you do? Isn't my life fun? I deal with this stuff every day. Who knew? What do you think?
I would think we have to take it down. I mean, it's pretty blatant on copies that are trademarked by other retailers. I'm sure permission will be given.
Okay, anybody disagree with that? Yeah?
I disagree.
Go ahead.
I disagree because there is no Louis Vuitton on that purse as we look at it, although it does look like it.
See, you don't buy Louis Vuitton bags.
Oh, absolutely.
If you look at it closely, those are little Louis Vuitton. They're real replica. And by the way, sometimes when we get these complaints from Gucci or Louis Vuitton or Rolex or some of these guys that are really active in this area, some of the women in the company quickly go buy the purses and then take it down. I know they're doing this. I just want to know. Okay, how about, this is the same situation. How about this? Fake prescription drugs are a huge problem on the internet right now. What if you're the manufacturer of Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra, or one of those other male problem things, and baldness, incompetence, impotence, whatever. Okay, what does Yasmin?
I don't know.
Does anybody know what that is? Nobody wants to admit it? You better watch out, because these are going to show up on JohnPettis.com. Okay, so brandpills.com, no problem with the domain name, right? All kinds of clearly, this is not run by the makers of Viagra or Cialis. So what do we do with this one? Leave it up, take it down. Take it down? How come?
The words are there, clear and blatantly. In fact,
So this
they're
one-
selling someone else's product.
This one
without
moves
their
you more than the
permission.
other one.
Right.
Okay. All right. Anybody disagree with that?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's perfectly acceptable to sell secondhand. The question is that authentic Viagra or not? Right? If they have a source of authentic Viagra, there's no reason they can't advertise that they're selling.
Well, if it's a prescription drug, though, then even if it's authentic good, you still can't sell it.
Without prescription. Yeah, I mean, if they need a prescription to get it, and they're not, they don't require a prescription to get it, you can take it down. But
So you think there's more of an analysis?
the question
to
is,
that?
how much factual investigation do you have to do, right? Do you have to spend a week looking into this? Do you have to spend a day looking into it? If you're trying to make a decision on the hour, I think the chances are pretty good that this site should be taken down, right? But how much looking into it do you typically do before you take something?
Good question. So here's what happens. We get a complaint under the DMCA. There are about 12 steps that the copyright holder or trademark holder has to fill in to let us know that there's a violation. They provide all of the evidence. We take it down. The person who runs that website comes back and makes an objection, and they provide their 8 responses. We put it back up. Now I'm in a safe harbor. I'm completely protected. It's not my problem anymore.
From copyright, are you using the DMCA for trademark violations?
We have a very similar policy that we use for trademark, although it's not controlled by the DMCA.
It's also not been legally blessed.
That's true. But we use a similar analysis, and because a lot of the companies in this business are following GoDaddy policies, it's pretty much the industry standard now, so sorry.
So
Now that you know me, you should be terrified to know I'm setting policy for the whole internet. Okay, this is like the big, huge, popular thing now, okay? I know, we're gonna wrap up really quick. You go out and you register generic stuff like Nashville food, New Orleans food, Memphis bowling, like all kinds of crazy stuff, and you put up a search site on it. And you just use it to monetize the traffic that hits, because these will be paid search links. Anytime somebody clicks on those, the operator of the site gets a few pennies. Did you guys have any issues with that? Just monetizing generic traffic? No? Okay. What about if you do this with domain name kiting, where you buy that name and drop it every 5 days, and you keep putting it up over and over and over again. You never pay for it. They never pay for it. That's the way it works. What do you think? Does that seem strange? Yeah? Okay. All right, so that's just a kind of quick run through on the types of things you might find in disputes on domain names and content issues. The issues that you find when you're in-house generally are very broad. And anybody here interested in, I mean, do you already know that you're interested in going in-house? Yeah? Okay. You just have to know when you go in-house, particularly if you go to a smaller firm, your practice varies wildly. Okay, I'm a commercial litigator by background. When I took this job, I automatically became an expert on every area of the law, at least according to our executive staff. It's like, oh, Christine, you know, we have a contract dispute. We have an employee problem. We have a labor problem. You know, whatever it was, you had to be an expert on it. So it's nice to be able to focus on something and to get kind of your feet wet doing intellectual property or whatever your passion is. But you just got to know if you go in-house, you're going to end up being the jack of all trades, because most companies don't have huge legal departments where, you know, you can compartmentalize like that. You guys got to go, so I'm just going to leave you with two final thoughts. Go get your domain name, and you know, the random, uncomfortable versions of it. And anytime you or a client or anybody you know or associated with have anything to do with a domain name, make sure the person who registers the name is the registrant. If you don't write down anything else I say, write that down. Make sure the person who registers the name is the registrant, not the hosting provider, not the webmaster, not some guy in the IT department. It's very important because we get dozens of disputes every single day for people calling us and saying, oh, this is my domain name, I need it back. Well, prove it's your domain name. It's very difficult to do. And some of these domain names are becoming really, really valuable as good domains get less and less available. So keep that in mind as the moral of this whole story, okay? All right, thank you guys for coming.
You're kidding me. I love that.
I gave an example of someone who actually sent it to me. So essentially, you know, what happens is you have the right to stop them from doing it. So they have the right to force it.
That is great.
Well, I'm not getting them on, even though after that, then they tried to sell more. And they changed the rule, so it wasn't about knowledge. They said if we sell, I think it's like 1,000 copies or 10,000 copies of our book, and then I just checked yesterday, or the day before that, to see what happened. They say I sold our book, and they actually stuck it through Word.com,
Yeah.
and so it looks like basically the domain name.
Yeah, but
so that Word.com is used to ads in the trial.
That's so funny.
So Toby is.
Just happened when I checked it just the other day.
I just checked it a couple of days
Yeah.
ago. And so, well, yeah, so the bottom line is now that Toby is allegedly safe because Word.com bought the domain name and hitting up to, and I logged on that, I found it said